The last time I spoke with A&Ps was when the A&Ps at Eastern Airlines went on strike. They were waiting for what the pilots were going to do. A secret ballot was taken. I didn't know the results until 5 minutes before I had appeared before the IAM, the International Association of Machinists. And it was almost unanimous that we would support the A&Ps with the sympathy strike. This shows how much respect we had for the A&Ps. Because without you guys, and you're the new guys on the block, the mission of the airlines could not be fulfilled. To fly the airplanes safely and comfortably to their destination. Now, there's a commonality between pilots and A&Ps. That's that license that we have, that we work very hard at. It's a license that is a lifetime license. However, we have to be current. But there's a caveat there. It can be revoked or suspended at any time. And this was what was happening before the strike at Easton. That management, this was, some of you were not even born at the time, they tried to compromise the A&Ps in trying to write up things, sign off, pressure the pilots. But they were professional enough to know this is not the way to go. So that, in a very, very short period of time, is why we supported the A&Ps. You guys now have more of a responsibility. The last plane I flew was a DC-9 MD-80. And we had very, very good training in it. It was the last of the aircraft where you'd go into a school, they'd have 3 weeks of school, you'd have BIRTAC boards, so you go through the systems, which you guys are going to be doing for the new planes that you are going to be flying. But we learned what bus controls what. We learned the hydraulic systems. We learned the engines. And this is very, very valuable because when we arrived at a destination, if there was something wrong, we would be able to converse more intelligently with the A&P that met the airplane. Well, it's not that easy now with the newer airplanes. The DC-9 MD-80, the manual was this thick. It went through many, many systems. The newer ones, 757s, some of the A3 series, some of the Boeings, the manuals are much smaller. And so the pilots, they're going to rely on you guys more. I'll give you an example. But before I do, I want to thank you for what you guys are doing. I really appreciated it. It's quite a responsibility that you're taking, and it's quite an adventure that you're going ahead with. My grandson, Finian, may be a future student here. In his tour, he mentioned to Mitchell, well, aviation's always going to be with us. But the second observation he made, that plane is not going anywhere until I sign it off. Just remember that. And don't let anybody ever pressure you into doing otherwise. What happened on Easton, there were 10 management maintenance people up in the New York area. JFK and LaGuardia. They were indicted. So be careful, be careful. But that is also going to be fall on you as to where you're going to go. When you go in for an interview, it's not just interviewing you. You're interviewing them. And if you are not comfortable there, if you don't see the enthusiasm, the teamwork, and the attitude, get out of there. Forget it, because there's too many positions that are open now for you people there. You don't need to compromise yourself. Now, give you an example why it was so good to know an airplane. Yes, I knew the systems very well. It was when I first started flying co-pilot on DC-9. Flight attendant comes up and she said, got a little problem there. Passenger just dropped his Rolex watch down the toilet. So captain turns to me and he says, go on back there and you handle it. I said, why me? He's because I'm the captain. So I went back there not knowing what to do. I didn't know the systems. All the systems, that particular system was not in our manual. So I go back there, and you have to use sometimes a little initiative, creative. And I go to the bathroom. There's no way, I'm tall, but my arms, there's no way I can do anything. So I stayed there a few minutes, washed my hands. I had a short sleeve shirt on, and I left my hands wet. And I came to the passenger, and I said, well, sir, as I'm wiping my arms, and I went to shake his hand. He didn't want to shake my hand. And I said, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. I can appreciate it because I have a Rolex myself. So I said, but I'm not the final word. I'll have A&P meet the airplane. And so I called ahead, told what we needed, to outline what had happened. And we landed, and there's this A&P showed up, young fellow, your guys' ages. Looks like he was cast by Central Casting. His crisp uniform, just as sharp as can be. And all the passengers got off, and I asked the passenger to wait. And he sat down with the passenger. But what he did, he picked up the pages before he met the plane. He was prepared because he knew the system for the toilet. And he sat down with him. I went out and did my pre-flight before each leg. And I came back, they were still sitting, talking. Well, he got off. The passenger thanked me. He still won't shake my hand. But he really appreciated that we went out of the way because we worked together. I asked the mechanic, who was teamwork, he was working with the group for some other items there, and I said, what did you do? He says, I explained to him the whole system and why we couldn't recover his Rolex. And the passenger happened to be an engineer. Great. Okay, now, there's a question that we don't even have to think about. That was attitude, teamwork, and enthusiasm, all wrapped up into one. Now, let me tell you another situation there. It was when I was flying captain on the DC-9 MD-80 between Atlanta and Dallas. And I always made it a point, sometime during the trip, to walk to the back, to go to the back, take a bathroom break. Walked all the way to the back. That way, if anybody has any questions or anything like that, they can ask. I don't want to get any letters in my file, unless they're good. So there was only 3 people up in the first class section. And there was the senior flight attendant, and a 3-man crew, and a 3 flight attendant crew. They generally work the front. You know, rank has its privileges, right? So he's sitting there reading a newspaper, just like he was one of the passengers. And in the meantime, the flight attendants are pushing their carts through. It was so busy. And they were worried, they even said to me before, I don't know whether we're going to be able to finish the meal service in time. So I went up to the senior and I said, you guys, he's the team leader, right? I don't know whether they're going to be able to finish it in time. They probably can use some help. Well, I go to the bathroom, come back, he's still sitting there with the newspaper. Well, 33,000 feet is not the time to have to go into an area there that I should not have to. So I go in the back, I asked one of the seniors, one of the flight attendants, who's the senior one? And she identified, they compared dates of hire. And I said, okay, come with me, and you pick the newspaper out, put it down. We went up to came up to the cockpit. I blinked to the co-pilot. I said, put this down on the log. There's no log for this. There's a maintenance log. But I said, at 13:15 hours, senior flight attendant was replaced by flight attendant so-and-so. And he says, now, get out of here. So we landed in Dallas. And to me, it was over. Because he was working in the back, he wasn't a senior, fine. Was it all day? We were flying with the same crew all day long. I couldn't care less. As long as we get the mission accomplished, flying the passengers safely and comfortably. So we landed in Dallas. And I'm getting off the airplane, and the former senior flight attendant says, hey, Captain, who do you think, well, he used some words that I probably don't want to mention here. So I said, okay, come with me. And I set up a conference call with the manager of flight attendants. With the 2 phones. So I just said to the manager, I said, there's a little problem here. I said that I had to replace the senior, and I said, I'll let him explain it to you. Well, he went on for about 5 minutes. I didn't say a word. What did he violate here? Did he have the attitude? No. Did he have working together? No. Did he have enthusiasm? No. So the manager said, well, would you fly back to Atlanta and we'll replace him? Yeah, that's fine. Because you had to have, in that particular configuration, as a former DC-9 MD-80 knows, it's based on the number of people or seats you have, whether they're filled or not. So we get back to Atlanta, they replace him. Now, what did this guy do? How you can shoot yourself in the foot? He put himself on the ground for 30 days. Why? Why? But this leads to another thing. You can't teach attitude. You can't. Go into any restaurant. After a few minutes, you say, why am I here? Maybe you should have walked out. You can tell. You can't teach enthusiasm. You can't teach teamwork. All three work together. Fortunately, when I say you can't teach it, you can be exposed to it. And how fortunate you are. Mitchell. Robert. Don. And your teacher here. Because you have the environment that fosters all three things that was talked about today. All right, I'm open up to any questions. You got a question?
You mentioned that one individual about the sharp, crisp uniform.
Yes, sir.
So why was his uniform so sharp and crisp? Was he just like brand new, or you just get it from the cleaner, or?
Good point. Good point. Well, as some of you are going to probably notice, I used to have a Cessna 140 tail dragger. I was up in Norfolk, Virginia, and it was a big place for fish spotters. And there was this mechanic that kept all those fish spotting airplanes in the air. They were old airplanes. He had a two-man operation, little hangar at this airport there. As far as uniform goes, he never changed the oil in his uniform, not once. Fantastic mechanic. So, to answer the question, Robert, he may have just arrived, but the point of it is he had other things. His pants was crisp. His uniform was clean. Yeah, okay, you're going to dirty the uniform, dirty the shirt every once in a while. You'll see some spots on it, but you can tell, was that shirt changed that day? Did he look well groomed? It's very, very important in airlines there, how you look. They have a set dress code. And some airlines say no beards, sir. No hair has to be cut in such a way. And I'll give you an example. Back in the days of the beatniks, the hippies, there was this co-pilot that showed up, and his hair was very, very long. Well, was he an example? No, because the uniform and the way you look is an example of your dedication, your appreciation to the airline or whoever aircraft organization you're working for. It shows uniform. Uniform means uniformity. So how many times when you put your uniform on, how do you feel the first time you put that uniform on? How did you feel? Felt damn good, didn't it?
Sexy.
Right. Right? Even Robert, felt good. And that's very, very important. Okay, another question. Yes, sir.
What was it like flying those planes?
I can't hear you too well.
Was it like, how was your experience with flying planes? Was it like all inspiring?
I can't hear you too well.
You gotta speak up.
Yes.
How was it flying the planes? Like, what is it? What is your experience like? What would you want to say about flying the planes? Like, just from a pilot's perspective, how is it exactly?
Yeah. From my perspective, what was it like flying the aircraft? Is that correct? Well, I flew, in flying the DC-9, I found it very, very easy. I had a Cessna 140 old tail dragger, which is a very difficult plane to fly. I found the DC-9 a lot easier because it was assisted by hydraulics. It's the last plane that you could really, that the company would not discourage you from flying. Whereas now, with the newer airplanes, you have just basically a monitor. You're monitoring the systems, and you're sitting there. It's like my grandson, Finian, said when he flew down here to visit with Mitchell, he was boarded the plane before because he was unaccompanied. And he asked the captain some questions there. And she had just got off of the DC-9 MD-80 Delta. And he asked her, he said, "What do you do on this newer airplane? What do you do?" And there isn't that much to do. You monitor, but you don't have the background, the training that you did with the older airplanes. Did I answer the question? Thank you. Any other question? Yes, sir.
What's
I-
one main question, what's one main question that you would recommend that we would ask our employer that we would consider to work for?
Say again, please.
What's, one main question you would recommend that we ask our employer that we may consider to go work for?
Good question. Question is, what main question would you ask an employer before you went to work for them? I think what went through today, you want to ask them about, the attitude, the teamwork, the enthusiasm. Because what this does, it shows this is what you're concerned about. It's an ace in a hole in your interview. But before I go in for the interview, I'd walk around the place. Just say I want a tour and talk to the people there. And you get a feel, just like when you walk into that restaurant. Do I want to stay here? Or maybe I should have left. And how many times we've sat down and eaten and say, well, why did we not leave? Why? Because the attitude is showed as soon as, right away, within seconds, you can tell. And that may answer your question there, to do a little homework before, to check everything that's going on, where you can feel comfortable. That's the main thing. You want to be comfortable, because it's not a job. No, it's not. It could be a fun experience if you allow it to be.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. I want to thank you for the privilege of speaking with you.